What's up, sports fans? This is the NCAA College Sports Channel. It is time to give you my official game picks and predictions heading into week number 12 of the 2025 college football season. Going back to my picks and predictions last week in week 11, I had a 7-3 overall record, so I got 7 out of the 10 games right, and then 3 out of the 10 games wrong. So a pretty good week last week for me at 7-3, and throughout the entire series that I've started this from last year, I still haven't gone under 500. I've gone 5-5 at times, but I haven't gone under that 5-5 record at 500. So how about week number 12? How will I do this week? Let's find out here in these picks and predictions. I picked out 10 of the biggest games in my opinion for week number 12. Going to give you score predictions for these games. Not that scores really matter. What really matters is I'm picking who I think is going to win this game. And we got some massive games coming up this weekend. This might be a chaotic weekend just because of how big these games are. So let's jump right into it. Starting here with a Friday night game. So this game is tomorrow night. Minnesota at Oregon. This one will be at 9 o'clock Eastern time on Fox. Oregon favored by 25.5. That's a very big number there. And I'll be honest, I think it should be a little bit lower. The over and under is low at 44.5. And I can understand why, because Minnesota, just like Iowa from last week, they have a type of defense that can really slow down this Oregon offense. I think Oregon will come out a little bit more focused since they are playing at home and they're looking for a better game out of their offense. Yeah, Oregon coming off that close win last week against Iowa. Do they come in a little bit beat up, especially after playing that defensive team? I really don't think so. I think Oregon will be just fine in this one. Again, I think Minnesota definitely has the type of defense that can slow them down, but I don't think it will be enough. It is a Friday night game, though, so you never know. These weeknight games can turn out to be upsets, but still, Oregon is the much better team, and I think they will take care of business in this one, and I'm going to say they win it 31-10. So I know based off of that score, it doesn't look like it's a close game, but maybe like this happens. Maybe it's close in the first half, and then second half, Oregon starts to pick it up on the offensive side of the football. So I see that I see how that goes here. I see it how that's going to go here between these two teams. Next up, we got Notre Dame at Pittsburgh as we head into the Saturday games. This one is at noon Eastern time on ABC. Notre Dame favored by 11.5. And I talked about that spread there in the upset alert video being a little bit high here. Oh boy, this is a tough one for me to predict. I kind of been back and forth on these two teams a little bit. Notre Dame, I feel like, hasn't played a tough opponent since the USC win. They lost a couple of games already, so the pressure really is on Notre Dame in this game, because I think if they lose, they're out of the college football playoff. I just don't see a 3-loss Notre Dame team getting in. I don't think there is a lot of pressure here on Pitt. Pitt's a team that, definitely can prove that they definitely belong in the top 25 in the playoff field, but they don't really have a lot of pressure because they can still technically win the conference with like 3 losses or maybe 4 losses, and they can get to the ACC championship and still automatically get in the college football playoff. But I think the pressure on Notre Dame is going to get to Notre Dame here in this one, but I feel like they'll come out focused. I feel like they'll come in fired up. They'll kind of ruin the Pittsburgh hype a little bit, and game day is going to be down there, so I think the pressure will get to Pitt just a little bit since they are kind of getting that college game day hype. I think this is a game that really goes either way, but I'm going to go with Notre Dame. I just think the talent of Notre Dame is a little bit too much for Pitt, but they do keep it close. I'm going with Notre Dame in this one to win it by 4, 28-24, the final score in this top 25 showdown. Next up, Michigan at Northwestern, also at noon Eastern time, not on ABC. I think this one is on the Fox Sports 1 TV channel, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's at noon Eastern time. Michigan also favored by 11.5. I think this is a trap game here for Michigan. Northwestern, I talked about them in the upset alert video. Yeah, they're 5-4, but they are not a bad football team. And I think Michigan might have a little bit of trouble in this game, but still, Michigan, I think, is overall the better team, and I really haven't watched Michigan a lot this year. I haven't watched them probably since the Michigan State game, and I feel like that was kind of a trap game for them, but they kind of proved to us that they're definitely not out of the college football playoff conversation. So yeah, Michigan, I think, will come out, maybe a slow start in this one, but then they kind of, get things together. But I think Northwestern will keep it close. I'm going to say only a 20-17 score, for Michigan Michigan to win. So, again, this is a trap game. I think, Northwestern could potentially be due for a big win here, and it could be this game against a top 20 Michigan team. All right, next up, Arizona at Cincinnati, noon Eastern time on Fox Sports 1. So this one is on FS1. I don't know what the channel is for the Michigan and Northwestern game. I have to look back and see it. But Cincinnati is favored by 6.5 in this one. This is also a trap game here for Cincinnati. Cincinnati coming off that brutal loss a couple weeks ago against, Utah. How did they bounce back from that loss? They're ranked at number 25 in the playoff rankings. You got to wonder if the pressure is on Cincinnati here the rest of the way, because I think they have to win out and then, of course, beat BYU to get to the Big 12 championship, because they're sitting at second place in the Big 12 standings. Even with that one loss, Utah has a couple of losses. Cincinnati still can make it to the Big 12 championship. I do expect Cincinnati here to bounce back, but I think Arizona keeps it close. This is a very solid Arizona team that's 6-3, and I think Cincinnati does prevail, but it is a close game. I'm going to go with a final score of 27-24. Again, score predictions doesn't really matter. I'm really picking a team who I think is going to win, and I think Cincinnati is that team who I think will win. Next up, Oklahoma at Alabama, big SEC game, 3:30 Eastern time on ABC. Alabama also favored by 6.5. The over and under sitting at 45.5, so we're expecting a really low-scoring game here, which I do expect here to play out between these two top 15 teams in the SEC. The pressure really is on Oklahoma here because their playoff hopes are definitely on the line. I think if they lose this game, they're definitely out of the playoff picture. Alabama can still technically get in as a 10-2 at-large team if they somehow were to lose a couple of games down the stretch. But I think Oklahoma definitely will come in fired up, even though it's on the road. Very tough place to play. They got the type of defense that can slow down Alabama's offense, and they can also slow down their passing game, and then also the running game of Alabama has not been great. So Alabama definitely going to have to get out of their passing game here, I think, because I don't think they can run the football against this Oklahoma team. So yeah, this one is a close one, but Alabama playing at home, revenge will be on their minds. Oklahoma's a team that, ruined Alabama's playoff hopes last year, and I think Alabama returns the favor. So I think they beat Oklahoma, and they ruin their playoff hopes back. And I'm going to say a 23-20 score. Again, a pretty low-scoring game, but Alabama does prevail because they're playing at home. I think it's a pretty even matchup. Next up, Iowa at USC, 3:30 Eastern time on the Big Ten Network. USC also favored by 6.5. You got Iowa coming in after a tough loss to Oregon. How did they bounce back from that game? Are they a little bit beat up, especially after playing that physical Oregon defense? They're going out west here, so this is a very tough place to play. I think this one is kind of similar, to the Minnesota and Oregon game. It's a game where Iowa will hang around. They have a type of defense that can slow down USC's offense, but I don't think it will be enough. It could be a close game in the first half, and then USC's offense starts to be explosive, and it becomes a little bit too much here for the Hawkeyes. So, while I think Iowa's a pretty solid football team, I think USC is a little bit better team. And then also the more talented team on both sides of the football, and I think USC does pull away. So I'm going to say with a 34-13 score here. Again, pretty similar to the Oregon game. Iowa keeps it close, but then USC's offense will start to heat up, definitely in the second half. All right, next up, Virginia at Duke, ESPN2 at 3:30 Eastern time. Duke is favored by 5.5 in this one. Honestly, I'm not too shocked that the Blue Devils are favored, but they are also coming off of a loss this past week. They lost to UConn in a non-conference game. I think this is a must-win here for Duke because if they lose another conference game, I think they're definitely out of the ACC championship picture. But, Virginia looking to bounce back after a disappointing loss to Wake Forest. Kind of a tough game for them this past weekend. And I do expect a shootout here between these two teams. These are two really well-balanced offenses. Defensively, I kind of give the advantage to Duke in this one. With Manny Diaz's defensive background. I think this one is close, but I'm not feeling so confident with Virginia after, officially a loss, from this past weekend. And Chandler Morris might be out for quite some time. I don't know the status of him going into this game just yet. So, yeah, Duke, I think, does prevail. I think they do pull off kind of a slight upset since, Virginia's in the top 20 in the rankings, but also Duke is favored, so it's not technically an upset. But I got Duke winning by 3, 31-28, the final score in this shootout. Next up, Utah at Baylor, 7 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN2 as well. Utah favored by 8.5. This one is also a trap game here for the Utes. Utah coming in a couple weeks ago after beating Cincinnati in a blowout. They got some momentum going. Utah definitely probably still has to win out in order to make it to the Big 12 championship, because BYU and Cincinnati probably they have to probably lose a couple more games in order to somehow make it to the Big 12 championship. So yeah, this is definitely a trap game. What if they're kind of looking ahead to that Big 12 race and not even focused here on Baylor coming up this weekend? Well, I don't think that will be the case. I think Utah definitely, just on paper, they look like the better team, but I wouldn't be surprised if Baylor kind of, kept this one close, and I think they will, but, I think it will be a shootout here. It's a game that goes either way, but I do trust Utah's offense a little bit more, and I think they get this victory, 35-31, on the road at Baylor. Next up, Texas at Georgia, another SEC game on ABC, 7:30 Eastern time. Georgia favored by 6.5 in this one. Georgia coming off, I think, their best game of the weekend, from this past weekend against Mississippi State. Their defense did just enough, but their offense was so explosive. This Texas team also coming off their best game, I think, a couple weeks ago as well. They beat Vanderbilt 34-31. They didn't really finish the game that strong, but Arch Manning looked pretty consistent and also pretty accurate with the football. This game right here, though, it's on the road for Texas. Georgia beat Texas twice last year, so this is like a double revenge here for Texas. But, still, I think Georgia, they got some momentum going after, especially, having a great offensive performance last week. And, Texas, they've been inconsistent all year until, a couple weeks ago, but I just don't really trust Arch Manning for that reason. I think for Texas, again, in order to win this game, it's going to come down to their offense. Can Texas's receivers step up, and then also can Arch Manning, escape the pressure from this Georgia defense? I think they'll keep it close, but I think a late touchdown probably could seal the deal. Probably a turnover really could change the difference as well, and I think Georgia, a late score probably does it. I think Georgia beats Texas here 28-17 in this top 10 matchup. And then finally, TCU at BYU, 10:15 Eastern time on ESPN. BYU favored by 4.5. You got to wonder how BYU bounces back after a tough loss to Texas Tech last week. Are they coming in a little bit beat up, especially after playing a physical Texas Tech defense? This is not a bad TCU team. They're kind of similar to Arizona. This is not a bad 6-3 TCU team, so I think they will keep this one pretty close. It's the Big 12. Every game is not going to be close, but it definitely could be trap game here for BYU, and also it could be back-to-back upsets here for BYU. So, yeah, BYU, I think, will come out a little bit, sluggish, not really a blowout, but I think their defense does just enough, and I think this will be a close one. Maybe a game-winning field goal, maybe a late turnover probably could change the difference, but I got BYU surviving in this one in a trap game against TCU. And I think they win it by 3, 24-21, the final score in this Big 12 matchup. So those are all my official picks and predictions heading into week number 12 of this 2025 season. Give me your thoughts on these 10 games and give me your predictions and score predictions for these 10 games down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more sports content videos on the NCAA College Sports YouTube channel.